Yeah, I know. I come around.
Sorry to keep you waiting before.
Excellencies, distinct guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Dean and I am your host. Today I welcome you to the National Museum of Archaeology for Day 2 of the MICA's International Art Weekend. I hope you are all doing fine this morning. Thank you for joining us. Yesterday we kicked off the 5th edition of the magnificent Auspicio Complex, which is now also the MICA's site. We also presented a showcase by celebrated contemporary British artist Conrad Shawcross. What is to become is already here. During this weekend, we are seeing why and how the Malta International Contemporary Art Space is strengthening Malta's cultural infrastructure by providing a platform for contemporary art and internationalization. This morning, MICAS will be holding a keynote lecture, which will be followed by a panel discussion that will both focus on preserving the past and programming for the future. The MICAS International Art Weekend 2023 is supported by the Ministry for National Heritage, Culture and Local Government, European Regional Development Fund, Restoration Directorate, Visit Malta and Heritage Malta. But to start day 2 and to kick off all that we have prepared for you today, please join me in welcoming MICA's chairperson, Mrs. Phyllis Muscat, for her opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you to the MICA's International Art Weekend keynote lecture and panel discussion. This year's International Art Weekend is rather special as it marks an important milestone on the MICA's timeline, the launch of our very first extensive on-site art exposition. What is to become is already here. A showcase of 3 distinct bodies of work by the exceptional British artist Conrad Shawcross. Conrad is with us again today and will share his thoughts during the panel discussion. We are extremely pleased that the public will now have the opportunity to explore the MICA's outdoor spaces while appreciating the intriguing work of Conrad Shawcross. The MICA's International Art Weekend is about celebrating art and artists. As a public cultural organization, it's our responsibility to facilitate participation and vital discussion on culture and the arts. Part of of the remit for MICAS as an international platform is to forward the debate on contemporary art and the pressing challenges of contemporary culture through knowledge exchange and public engagement. Therefore, these lectures and discussions aim to spur the public conversation on such issues. As an embryonic art space, MICAS is aware of the need to stay relevant and fresh in its offerings with artistic, educational, and outreach program strands that will fully engage with its audiences, neighborhoods, and communities. As we gear up for the MICAS official opening next year, we are focused on setting up the structures to help us in our internationalization mission. Therefore, before we commence this morning's program, I have a very special announcement to make. In an anticipated strategic development for MICAS, its internationalization remit and its goals for good governance, I am delighted to introduce the MICAS International Committee today. This committee will support MICAS's artistic mission by forging relationships with global art institutions, artists, and museums, supporting MICAS in the programming of significant exhibitions and guiding the institution's internationalization process. The committee will better equip MICAS to operate within the dynamics of the global contemporary cultural landscape. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce the chair of the MICAS International Committee, Waqas Wajahat, and the first international committee member, Timothy Rabb. Waqas Wajahat is an esteemed New York-based collector, curator, and art dealer who works closely with museums, artists, and artists' estates to organize and produce exhibitions. Timothy Rabb, who is our esteemed speaker today, is the celebrated George D. Widener Emeritus Director of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, a world-leading encyclopedic art museum. Timothy has been celebrated as a significant and inspirational cultural leader throughout his outstanding career. His extensive experience from leading other institutions such as the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Cincinnati Art Museum, and the Hood Museum of Art at Dartmouth College has cultivated a profound grasp of art museums' essence and mission, underscoring the necessity for their continual adaptation to meet the evolving expectations of the societies they serve, both on a local and global scale. On behalf of the MICAS board, I sincerely thank Waqas and Timothy for generously accepting our invitation to join the International Committee. Their extensive knowledge and experience will support MICAS's goal of being a truly international institution. We look forward to working closely with the International Committee to achieve MICAS's ambitious programming and global reach. We will now commence with this morning's program. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you will enjoy the stimulating presentation and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Phyllis, she has already done quite a good introduction of who is going to be speaking next. So please join me in welcoming the Director of Philadelphia Museum of Art, Timothy Rabb, so he can deliver his keynote lecture. We will also have a Q&A session. Any one of you after the session can ask questions and they will be answered by Timothy Rabb. Timothy, please join us on stage so we can commence. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction. And good morning. My thanks to the leadership of the New Malta International Contemporary Art Space for inviting me to speak to you. It's a pleasure to be here and to feel the excitement about this new venue for contemporary art, which I understand will be completed and open to the public in the coming year. Now, Edith Devane kindly sent me the several volumes that have been published over the past few years to commemorate your annual art weekends and to document both the design for the new Arts Center and the several works, and we should start with the new Arts Center, and several works that have been commission from contemporary artists, including the wonderful exhibition installation of shop we saw last night for the first time. Now, after reading all of these volumes, I will admit that I was at a bit of a loss to imagine what I could add to the conversation, because those involved in the planning and development of MICUS have been remarkably thoughtful in considering how this new institution is to be integrated into its historic setting, no mean feat. How it will function programmatically, inside and out, and the relationship that they hope MICUS will have with the various communities it's intended to serve here in Malta. So, what insights I can share with you that might be useful as you move forward towards the public opening of the Malta International Contemporary Art Space next year. I think this question is best answered by saying that I come to you as a practitioner, having recently retired after more than 30 years as a museum director, with broad responsibilities for collections, exhibitions, educational programming, resource development, keeping the trains running on time, and most importantly, striking the right balance between continuity and change. That is to say, understanding and honoring the traditions of the four institutions I have served as director, while at the same time and always looking imaginatively to the future, determining how and why you might choose to do things differently. So let's begin then, and it's my hope that you will find the observations I have to offer from the perspective of a practitioner to be of some use as you work towards the opening of Malta's new contemporary art space. Here's a view of the exterior, and of course, a rendering of the interior to come. And I must say, it's a very, very impressive design. First, and as a table-setting observation, it has been remarkable during my professional lifetime to watch contemporary art move from the margins of the art world to the mainstream, and to see how so many new museums devoted to its display be built, not only in my country, but indeed across the globe. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that it is the center of gravity of today's art world, and I do not see that changing anytime soon. But again, during my professional lifetime, 30 plus years, that has been the most significant change in the museum and the art world more broadly that I have witnessed. Now, the reasons for this are various, and it's not my intention to address them in this talk. But the proliferation of contemporary art museums has often led me to ask, what purposes specifically do they serve? Some, like Glenstone, in suburban Washington, D.C., here you see a view of Glenstone on the screen, are brilliant syntheses of art, architecture, and nature, but also unapologetically elitist. Elegant containers for the remarkable collections assembled by their owners, in this case the real estate developer Rich Rails and his wife Emily, and hardly accessible to the general public, however you may choose to define that term. So here's a view of the most recent pavilions in Glenstone. Here's a view of an earlier iteration of the landscape design. In this case, the buildings by Charles Lockley, and of course a big sculpture by Richard Serra at the top of this field. Others like Naoshima, the island in Japan's inland sea, turned into a museum and art park by the Vanessa Corporation with an assist from the great Japanese architect Tadao Ando. And here we see part of the island, the high point upon which Ando built a museum for the corporation, are examples of corporate patronage in the service of ostensibly public purpose, but again offering a luxury good that is only available to those that afford it. It does take some time, as some of you may know, to get to the island and stay there. So here's an aerial view of the museum, an apartment complex built on the highest point in the island. Here a view of an installation of work by the British sculptor Richard Long in a space that represents the ambition of the founders of this complex to integrate art and nature. I think they did some of these contemporary art museums or centers, like the new Museum of Contemporary Art in New York, seen here in this relatively new home of stacking metal boxes designed by the Japanese architectural firm Sana for Saigon Bowery, again in New York City, are essentially kunsthalle, foregoing the development of collections of broad-based educational programming, and serving primarily as well-oiled machines for producing special exhibitions. But beyond that, little else. In other words, they've deferred or given up other functions of museums like education, audience development to other museums in New York. While other museums like the now Buena Center for the Arts in San Francisco, built some 30 years ago to designs by Fumihiko Maki, have demonstrated a durable commitment to interdisciplinary programming, freely intermixing visual arts with theater, dance, film, and music. See contemporary artistic production as an integrated effort and one that should be displayed and presented and considered in its entirety. And still others, like the Louisiana Museum in Denmark, about an hour north of Copenhagen, offer both exhibitions and collections, but integrate these into an experience of place that engenders in its visitors a spirit of delight and makes the beauty of contemporary art in galleries that are interwoven with gardens. Here you see some other views of the Louisiana Museum, seen as natural as breathing air. Now, today's contemporary art museums or centers or spaces, these terms are still used somewhat interchangeably, continue to proliferate at an astonishing rate. We can find many different variations on these and other themes throughout Europe, the Americas, and indeed across the world. As these buildings are completed and then open to the public, the key issue becomes what will be their programmatic focus, and more broadly, what will shape their identity. Put another way, given the host of technical and programmatic decisions it requires, creating a new museum or art center physically for the environment is a complex task. But even more so is the challenge of institution building, imagining and then realizing a clear and persuasive vision of the nature and purpose of such an enterprise. In my experience, these two things, building and then the making of an institution, are in fact two sides of the same coin. Yet they are not always, at least to the degree that they should be, considered in relation to each other. Particularly during the planning process, with the result that what a building is designed to accomplish cannot always meet the aspirations of the staff or the expectations of the public. And looking forward, we need to ask, how can a building and its program be adapted over time in response to changing modes of artistic presentation or innovative educational practices? This, of course, is the challenge faced by those who are tasked with the responsibility for renovating historic structures. And I think it's a question that is equally germane here. And obviously, yes, you're building a new museum, but you are folding it into this historic structure and historic district. And therein lies all sorts of challenges, complications, and of course, possibilities. Now, a good and fairly straightforward case in point to illustrate this is the Hood Museum of Art at Dartmouth College in rural New Hampshire. I began working there in the summer of 1987, a little less than 2 years after a new museum building was completed and opened to widespread acclaim. Here you see the view of the new building from the Dartmouth Green. It was deployed, building around a series of courtyards clad in red brick, with simple detailing in response to the historical architecture of the college. It was a wonderful addition to campus with spacious new galleries, up-to-date storage for Dartmouth's impressive collection of 60,000 works of art and artifacts, and an auditorium as well as administrative offices for the museum staff. Finally, a lovely setting with a display of collection and the presentation of special exhibitions. However, here I'll just show you gain access to the collection for teaching and research next to the council. In this regard, Charles Moore, the celebrated architect of this new building, did nothing wrong. He simply responded to the functional requirements articulated by the college, which themselves were fairly standard at the time. Galleries, storage, administrative offices, and little else. Rather than this represented a failure on the part of the college to imagine a teaching museum that would be truly different and thus more suited to serve the needs of faculty and students. And today, some 40 years later, Berkeley has a museum and in fact does just that, but it required a commitment to change, to correct the errors made in the past, and $60 million in renovations and structural changes to the building to get to that. But they did learn over time. Two of the constants in my career, no matter where I work, is that I've had to raise significant amounts of money, as indeed fate museum directors in the United States, for operations, programs, collections, and facilities. And I've had to renovate older buildings and adapt them to today's needs. This has been challenging and in general very, very interesting work. In part because it, as you already know, all too well here in Malta, it's much easier to build over time. Even Bailey and Archaeology the chair of Michael's International Committee, suggested it might be useful for me to speak with you about my experiences in renewing and expanding two major museums in the United States, the Cleveland Museum of Art and the Philadelphia Museum of Art, for the past 15 years. To share some of the lessons that we can draw from this work, particularly as these might be applicable to